Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I think today's video is going to be more of a talking video, a news video kind of update, as opposed to a review or first impressions kind of video, so hopefully everybody's cool with that. So this one is going to be about a number of different topics. The first topic that I really wanted to touch on was kind of the new look and feel of the site. Trying to get people's impressions of the site, see what you think. Hopefully the banner looks a little bit more professional than it did before, and thumbnail and all that fun stuff. So please feel free to add some comments on that, one way or the other. If you hate it, you like it, whatever. I would like to get some feedback on that. I'm changing the focus of the channel just a wee bit, not just on photography, but on a number of other different topics that I kind of want to touch on periodically. So I will primarily focus on photography. Going forward, I'm going to also touch on topics like immigration, what it feels like or what it is like to move to a different country like Canada from the US. Kind of the things that you have to go through as far as getting everything set up, all that fun stuff. So I would like to make a video or two probably around that topic. Give you a feel for what it's like to live here in Vancouver, especially as an immigrant starting off on a work permit and then moving on to a permanent residency. So kind of the steps that you have to go through for that. So I will talk or probably create a few videos on that. Please let me know again in the comments if that's something you might be interested in, or if not, if you're just here for photography, cool, I get that. A couple other things too I wanted to focus on. One of the reasons why I started the channel was because I felt like that YouTube as a whole doesn't really do well for, or doesn't have a lot of focus on kind of that mid-range area of life, if you will. You know, people in their late 30s to mid 50s. I feel like that kind of that demographic, if you will, my demographic, my peeps, is kind of underrepresented, unfortunately. So there are channels, of course, that have, let's just call them older people on the channels, but it seems like the vast majority of the bigger channels are someone in their 20s, let's say mid-20s, somewhere around that range, maybe early 30s. And I kind of wanted to talk about issues that are affecting people that are a little bit older, a little bit later in life, perhaps. Maybe you've got kiddos that are in their teens or graduating from high school, moving on to the university, that kind of thing. Kind of where I'm at with a university student right now. Wanted to touch on kind of what it feels like to make that transition and how that works for some people. So I don't know if I'll be making a dedicated video to that, but I may just occasionally touch on those kind of those topics of making a change in your life, basically. And that's kind of what goes to the theme of the new name of the channel, Rob on Refresh. Basically for me, making a change to a new country with a daughter who is almost 20 now, which is crazy to even think about. Yeah, so just kind of the topics that are the feelings that kind of go along with that. So sometimes that may be photography related, sometimes that may be just business related. So just kind of maybe even financial topics as well. Maybe just get a little bit different perspective than what it feels like to be someone in your teens or your 20s on YouTube. And like I said, that's pretty overrepresented in my opinion. Also wanted to focus a little bit on travel. Obviously travel right now is kind of a tough thing to accomplish. We got more regional travel going on right now here in Canada. Of course, I think a lot of people are trying to get out and really enjoy nature and that kind of thing, which is probably a good thing. We are hopefully going to be going to Vancouver Island, and I'll get a little bit of coverage and I'll create a separate video for that. I don't think it's going to be today because we're a little late in the day. Hopefully maybe tomorrow we'll maybe make a trip to Vancouver Island and we'll get a little bit of that, and maybe by Friday, maybe I'll do my First Takes Friday again and show a little bit of footage from Vancouver Island. I want to get do a little traveling around the islands, show you some of the beauty of the island itself. So I guess, like I said, I talked about a little bit about it, but separate income opportunities. I'm trying to work on a few little side hustle type opportunities, and obviously there's a lot of that on YouTube right now. People doing things like, you know, drop shipping or whatever you want to call it, Amazon, FBA, that kind of thing. I'm not talking about those type of side hustles, but more along the lines of starting an art business online. Yeah, some other topics that I really want to focus on. I'm going to dedicate probably a video a week to potential income opportunities maybe during this time of COVID that people can really focus on and try to build up an income off to the side that maybe not your main income if you've lost your job during COVID, which I know a lot of people have, and I just finished up my project that I was on. So I want to touch on those little topics as well. So that is kind of the focus of the channel going forward. But more importantly, my next item on my list of things here to focus on is, did anybody buy Tesla or Apple today or yesterday after the stock split? Now, I picked up a few shares of Apple yesterday. I did not touch Tesla because it was going absolutely crazy. I think it was up like 50 yesterday, which was insane. I think today it was down about $23, $24. So I picked up a few shares of Tesla today, but I'd kind of like to get everybody's feel on where do you think that's going. Hopefully, again, toss some ideas in the comments of what you're investing in for those who are investing in the stock market, in the US stock market, of course. If you have any cool ideas, let me know. I also invested in about 4 different ETFs yesterday for ARK investments, and I'll touch on that maybe in a separate video, but they have a kind of a focus on technology, innovation, that kind of thing, which is pretty cool. A lot more diversified than just investing in a single stock or two. Anyway, just curious what everybody's thinking along the stock market lines. So from a photography perspective, one thing I did want to talk about, what people's takes are on, there was a video that just came out on, I think on the Northrops, that saying that Chelsea was going to switch to Canon now from Sony after having switched from Nikon to Sony last year, I believe. So I'm kind of curious what everybody's take is on that. I don't honestly see it as much of a controversy. I just think it's more of a personal preference. If you want to switch, that's fantastic. As I've often said, I think this, what I'm even recording on right now, as anybody who's been around the channel for just a tiny bit knows that I'm a Nikon guy. But I switched to Nikon back 2014 when I think not too long after the D810 came out. So I just felt like the feature set was a little bit better for what I wanted to use it for. And I switched from Canon to Nikon at that point in time. But I don't think of Nikon as kind of my personal brand, really. It's just a camera, it's just a tool. And I've said this many, many times. So I don't really understand, and maybe people can explain it to me, why people get so upset if someone switches from one manufacturer to another. Is it really that big of a deal? No, I don't really look at it that way. Now, I wouldn't do that primarily because I have such an investment in Nikon glass, Nikon bodies, that kind of thing. And so I wouldn't make that switch more for financial reasons than anything else. And then also because I don't really see the massive benefit for switching. And maybe there are those who see that and have that ability to make that switch, and if that's the case, then fantastic. You know, if it's the eye autofocus thing or animal eye autofocus, which is one of the things that she uses her justification for switching. If that's your thing, then cool, make your switch, that's cool. I have no problem with that whatsoever, but I also think it's kind of silly if that's the main reason you're making a switch from one brand to another, because for the vast majority of us, you're going to lose some money making that switch, especially if you've got a lot invested in glass and in bodies and those types of things. You're selling them on the used market, you're losing money. Now, if you're buying used, if you're going to KEH or Adorama or that kind of thing to buy equipment, then you're not losing that much. So it's really not that big of an issue, I don't think. Yeah, so if you're going from, you're selling your equipment, used equipment, and then going to brand new, buying, like I said, an R5, you're not going to find that on the used market. You're going to lose some money there. So if you have the financial wherewithal to do that, then that's fantastic, you know, and I'm all for you for making that switch. But I still can't fully understand why it's even controversial, though. You know, why are people just so up in arms about it? You even see comments saying to the effect of, well, you're not a real photographer if you are constantly switching. Well, to some extent, I can kind of see that point. But if you have, like I said, the financial wherewithal to do it, go for it. I mean, I'm all for trying out different equipment. I think that's kind of cool. But for me, no, I'm sticking with Nikon. I'm good. But I did also want to touch on a point that came up in another video of YouTubers that I really like a lot. One of the things that they said in the video, which I thought was really odd, and I didn't find it insulting per se, but I felt that it was a little bit over the top, was that this is not your dad's Nikon camera, right? And I thought, that's really odd. Yeah, Nikon's been around for a long time, but are only old people shooting on Nikon these days? Is that what we're basically saying? And that Sony and Canon are now the hip, cool tools to use. I mean, that's really bizarre to me because they have very, very similar feature sets. So where does that come from? I don't fully understand that. So I made a comment and she responded back and said, well, yeah, you're the dad in this scenario, because I said, well, no, my dad is the one shooting on Canon. And so yeah, I'm the dad in that scenario, I guess. So I guess only old people shoot on Nikon, which is bizarre to me. A topic I also wanted to touch on was on travel, international travel basically, not domestic travel like we were talking about earlier. There's a website called Lost LeBlanc, I'm not sure, or I say website, a channel on YouTube. And he had just recently posted a video, I think it was just yesterday, about his travels to Mexico from Canada. I think he's been down there about a month and a half. And in a lot of the comments, people were really lambasting him for international travel during this time of COVID. And I'm kind of curious what people think on that too. Again, if you could kind of leave your impressions in the comments on where you stand on international travel. Do you think that it's completely something that you should avoid right now? Or do you think people, if they go through all the processes of adhering to government regulations, wearing the mask, social distancing, staying away from people when they go to like say a resort or something like that, whereas it looks like where he's at in Mexico. What are the real issues around that? And I had made a comment on the video that basically said that, you know, during this time of COVID, there's been whole industries that are just almost getting destroyed because of the fact that people are no longer traveling. So we're talking about airlines, we're talking about hotels, we're talking about restaurants, rental cars, those types of things, right? People's livelihoods are basically being destroyed during this time because nobody's traveling, right? And so we're talking about probably millions of people whose livelihoods depend on some form of tourism. And they don't have the luxury in many of these other countries throughout the world where the governments are backstopping their income. So what are they supposed to do during this time? You know, they still have to feed their families. And so if you're one of those people who are like, no, you should not travel right now, you're exposing other people to potentially COVID symptoms. Even if you're showing no symptoms whatsoever, you should still not travel. Or even if let's say you've been tested 5 days before or something and you decide to travel, is that still not a good idea because you could potentially expose someone to the virus? You know, and the thing that I have a problem with is because it's literally making people, there are families who are starving now because of the fact that there's no one there in these countries to support them, to support those industries essentially. They have no way of making an income to support their families. So anyway, just an interesting topic I thought I'd bring up. Or I have a massive love for international travel. I've traveled almost 50 countries in my lifetime, and it's something I would really love to be able to do again right now. But you know, I've stayed more regional for the moment because there's really just no place. You know, I still have a U.S. passport, and I think there's only like 15 or 20 countries that will even accept someone from the U.S. right now. So. Someone with a U.S. passport. So even with a permanent residence card, you can't really just flash that and say, well, yeah, I live in Canada, but this is my U.S. passport. At least that's my understanding. So anyway, interesting topic, something I thought I would bring up. That's pretty much it. So I hope everyone's having a great week so far. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.